Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPad 6th generation and see how this particular iPad holds up in 2025. Now, the first thing I would definitely tell you is that these particular devices still, for the most part, hold up, okay. They're not going to be the best types of iPads in the world, but there are still a lot of benefits of being able to go through and buy these types of devices. Maybe, but there's probably a lot more iPads I'd recommend before buying this one. So if you do want to go ahead and immediately pick up some of those iPads, links will be down in the description below. You can get that from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of these particular iPads. With the iPad 6th generation, this iPad originally came out in 2018. And it's interesting because I do actually have a memory of, this iPad when it first came out, which is actually always kind of surprising to me how I even remembered it. With this type of iPad, you're essentially going to be able to go through and get like a pretty decent type of display. It's going to be a 9.7-inch Retina IPS panel on it. It's an IPS LCD panel, and it's a good type of display. It's not anything crazy, it's not anything we haven't already seen before, but I do think if you are about to go through and pick up a device, this thing does kind of get the job done for the most part. It still is fairly good. It's a fairly high resolution panel at that as well. So you're still going to be able to get a decent experience with it. But keep in mind, a majority of iPads nowadays do give you things like ProMotion displays and high refresh rates and, less bezel. This thing does have pretty big bezels on it. It's giving you a home button on the front, and there's no ProMotion on it. So, those are just some minor inconveniences kind of to think about here. Maybe it's not that big of a deal, but if you are about to go through and pick up a device, you probably want an iPad that's going to be giving you a little bit of a better experience. So that right there is going to be just one of those minor things to keep in mind there from that side. Now you are getting that home button on the front with Touch ID, which, is nice probably for a lot of people to have. But again, you probably want a device who's, that's probably going to give you a better type of layout like without a home button. So that right there is going to be another one of those minor things to keep in mind there as well. Now, on top of that, another super important thing to keep in mind here too is that with something like the iPad mini or the iPad 6th generation, this thing is giving you this solid back. It feels very premium. That's something I've always loved about iPads, is that they feel and perform very, very well. Like they're very fast, great, fast performing iPads. So they feel very nice. I've never really felt like a cheap iPad at all. So that's always been a really important thing to keep in mind there from that side as well. So from that side in and of itself, that's a really important thing. You're also going to be able to go through and still get like a pretty good, decent layout of a camera. Like it's a single camera, it's not perfect, but it still is kind of getting the job done for the most part for some people as well. And then that's kind of it. There's not really anything else super crazy going on here. But here's the thing you have to remember with these types of iPads. They're fairly outdated when it comes down to it, right? The layout looks a little bit outdated, like the home button on the front and everything is like an outdated type of structure. And that is kind of what's going on here. Like if you're about to go through and pick up an iPad, this thing is already going to be a little bit of an outdated type of, device. So I would just hate for you to go through and buy an iPad like this if you're wanting a better performing one. This thing is missing out on a better display. The display on this thing just isn't really doing that well. You're also taking a look at kind of an outdated type of, camera system. Like it's only a single camera setup. That's not even really that good. So that right there is going to be another downside. You're also going to have to take a look at the layout. Like this thing does have curved sides to it. Most iPads do have flat sides. So even Apple Pencil support, this thing does actually support the first Apple Pencil, but beyond that, there's not really too much else kind of going on here. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there as well. Now, on top of that, some other really important things to keep in mind here too is the camera. So the camera on this thing, like I mentioned, really is not going to be that great. It is going to be somewhat of an average type of camera layout. And like I said before, I do think this is something that's a really important thing to keep in mind. It really just depends on your particular system, right? Do you want to go through and use this type of camera that's not really going to be giving you that great of an experience? Because it really is only an 8 megapixel standard camera on the backside, and then you're essentially getting a 1.2 megapixel camera on the front. And that right there is kind of a little bit of a downside of a type of camera, because you probably want a little bit of a better performing device for the most part. And unfortunately, with this type of camera, you're not really going to be getting that there. So I would probably tell you, in my personal opinion, if you're wanting a better type of camera, this thing just isn't really going to be giving you that. And that in and of itself is going to be a downside when it comes down to it from that side. So like I said, maybe it's not the biggest deal in the world, but you might be getting a little bit of a different type of layout here for the most part, just from that type of situation. So again, not the biggest deal in the world, but one of those minor things to keep in mind there. Now on top of that, another important thing is the price tag. These iPads don't cost that much anymore. They have gone down in value quite a bit. So that right there is also going to be kind of a nice thing to have for these types of devices as well, because you're able to go through and buy an iPad like this and you're going to save a bunch of money. So I really do think that is also kind of another important thing to keep in mind here, because you're able to go through and get a type of device like this. It's not really going to cost like an insane amount of cash, and you are going to save some money, which is nice, but at the same time, there might be some better options out there as well. So that's always been kind of one of those really important things to kind of keep in mind there for the most part as well. But it's not the end all be all, but that is just, again, one thing to kind of remember. Now, on top of that, when it comes down to its software longevity, this is probably going to be one of the bigger takeaways here as well, because this type of device is already kind of coming to its last leg. I mean, it's already been outdated with software for like about, a little bit of 2 years now. So that right there is also going to be kind of a downside. You probably want to go through and get a device that is going to be going through and giving you a better type of experience, right? You probably don't want to go through and get stuck with a phone or a device in general that's going to be giving you like kind of a lower end type of experience for the most part, right? You probably want like a faster type of device. And unfortunately with these types of phones, it's not really going to be giving you that here, right? You're going to be getting like a good type of experience, but it's not really going to be that great. And that's why I kind of feel like there might be some better options out there for you for some other types of devices. So I do think from that side too, that is kind of one of those big things to keep in mind here. Like, are there other phones out there that you could buy that might be giving you a better type of experience? And I would probably tell you this in and of itself would be another one of those really important things to keep in mind there as well. Even from a performance side, this type of device, it's still giving you like a decent type of experience. Like it's not like the worst performing phone of all time, but like I mentioned before, there might be some better options out there for you rather than this type of device as well. So, this thing is giving you that Apple A10 Fusion chip inside, which is the same thing as the iPhone 7 Plus. And then it's also going to be going through and giving you like not that much RAM, 2 gigabytes of RAM. So this thing is a very outdated type of, iPad. For basic things, you might be able to get through and like do some very basic things with it. But beyond that, I really wouldn't recommend anyone to buy this type of iPad anymore. There are way better types of iPads to buy, especially from a price per dollar standpoint. And this one just doesn't really make a lot of sense to go and kind of pick up anymore. So, in my personal opinion, I think there are way better iPads for you to go and buy rather than this one. These types of iPads, they really just don't make a lot of sense to go and pick up anymore. I think there's really good options out there for you. I just don't think this would be one of the ones I'd recommend buying. I think if you're able to buy it, I think an M1 iPad Air 5 is a very good option. That is an excellent iPad. I would recommend a lot of people to go through and buy that one. I also think at the same time, buying something like an iPad, Air, 6 if you can. I mean, that's a little bit more expensive. An iPad 9th generation would be better. An iPad 5th generation, like the 6th generation, like these ones, they just really don't make too much sense to go and buy. And I really do think there's way better options out there for you to go and pick up rather than like these types of devices. So that's the way I kind of see it for the most part. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.